Hello and welcome back. It's just 1 month since I launched the AuthentiKit system, starting with the Spitfire Mark 9 flight stick, and I'm really pleased how well it's been received. We've got over 100 people now on the Discord server, many of whom are partway through a build of something very similar to this, and the vibe on the server is great as well. I need to give a shout out to Johnny Greens, who's doing a great job just saying hi to new people, making them feel welcome and pointing them to useful stuff. We've had several builds completed. Here are a few pictures of them. And I know that many of you are now desperate for me to finish the next stage, which is the throttle quadrant and the elevator trim wheel. And I promise I am getting onto it, but there is one thing I needed to do first, and that was to rework the fire button. I've now done that, and with this new version you can now press up for machine guns, down for cannon, and in the middle for both at once. There was actually very little to change, so I'm just going to take you through those changes in this quick video. So here is the new stick I'm building. I'm going to skip everything you know already and is covered in the earlier videos and just focus on these three things. Firstly, the assembly of the fire button. Strictly, I could even skip this step as the wiring here is identical. But I want to focus a little bit more on a technique to ensure you get good electrical contact. This part of the build is the only part that relied on a pressure contact rather than crimping with ferrules. So I was worried about the risk of a failed connection, and I've developed a better method which I'm going to show you. Secondly, the wiring in the stick body and in the base. That's a little bit different. You'll also find that the lengths of the wires running through the whole body, which I guess starts at this point, that's different. But the correct lengths that you need are in some updated documentation which come with the download for this new design. Finally, the wiring in the universal hub, that's slightly different. So I'll quickly show you that. So starting with the fire button. Here is the only change to the printed parts. I think you can see here that the case has an oval in it instead of just a hole, and that's it. So let's quickly get on to wiring. We'll assemble the fire button into the case as before. In fact, you should find it goes in slightly easier. Right. Yeah, there's one dowel in already. And the other one, there you go. Simple as that. In with this little peg. That's in place nicely now, and you can now see that the button, as well as rocking, slides up and down a bit. Next, with the neoprene, I'm using a slightly shorter length. It doesn't go quite as far across as before. And the reason for that is that, as well as the neoprene providing resistance against a rocking action, the whole neoprene now has to be compressed when you press in the center. And there's a bit of resistance on that, so just to give your thumb a bit of an easier time, I'm using a slightly shorter piece. So on that goes, dead center, or close enough. That's done. Now when you assemble this, I now recommend that you put this fire case back onto the spade before you start. Then slide on the fire case front piece of the rear and just line that up so that you've got it the right way around to start with. Don't forget the wire press. You don't want to remember that after you've crimped everything. So have that sat there all good and ready. Also, let's get this lined up in the right way so that when we're finished we can just pop it on. And you can see now it's the wrong way around, so we'll set it the right way around and just sit it down like that. Now we're going to fit in the omron tact switches. This will be at the bottom and this will be at the top. So fire button at the top, machine guns at the top. And what I've done this time, I've flattened out the two inner lugs of the tact switch at the bottom, and I've flattened out one of the lower lug. If you hold it that way, the one underneath, I've flattened that one out. And then the upper one, I've bent that down because that's going to be the one place that's going to have a little bit of pressure connection. The other ones, which are flattened, 3 of them, are going to have a ferrule on them. We also have a little piece of 0.5mm copper wire, and it's 20mm long. Okay, let's wire this up. We'll start with the ground, which is going to join the 2 pins at the top, or on the left hand side, the way that is oriented. We'll slide a ferrule over the black ground wire. And what I've now found best is to slide the copper in at this stage and get the 2 of those on. Now slide that over the left hand pointing up of these pins. Now that's a little bit snug, so just work that on so we've got all 3 bits inside the ferrule. I think we're there. Yep. Now if I just put that in the case for a second, just hold it there, sit that down. Now we'll get a ferrule on the green, which is going to be the cannon, and we'll slide that onto the lower of these 2. Okay, that's on, and now let's just press. That copper needs to be underneath the black wire. Press that down. Okay, they're all in. Now we crush the ferrules and make a good connection. Pretty good. Okay. Now I kept the yellow machine gun wire out of the way while I did that, and we just now need to thread on a ferrule for that. Okay, so remember we had a bent pin there and a smooth pin here. So this goes on the smooth pin. If I know what's slightly easier, I would say, is let's put the omron in and now slide it on, and then that channel will hold the yellow wire for us a little bit, and now we can crush that ferrule. That felt pretty good, that's pretty crushed. And now you can see that the copper wire has been pressed down by that sprung pin. Okay, we're there. Let's pop this in. You get a nice click there that just has a slide over the wire press. If you just do that carefully, nothing should fly out. There we go. And then the case back. Okay, now it's just time to pop in the M3 countersunk screws. There we go. Now, if you correctly lined up the case at the start, you should find that it slots perfectly over the spade grip with the thumb recess on the left, which it does. We'll just slide through the wires. Very good, that fits correctly. Pop in the 20mm at the back, and now we have machine gun, cannon, both. Wonderful. Okay, so you can see that I've been building the stick up, and I've followed the same process as the previous videos until now. Things get slightly different where the wires join on the bridge here. So let's go left to right on these junction terminals. No change on the left. That's where the reds were joining, and that's still going to happen. This is where the ground wires joined. We had the black from the fire button joining with one of the blues. Now this time both the blues, that's the roll mag hole, and then later it'll be joined by the pitch mag hole, they get merged with the black. The third junction here is no longer used. That was where we had the two fire wires joining. Now they run all the way through the body. And then finally we had a wire starting from here, that was a green wire, which later on was joined by a sensor from the pitch here. That's the same, we still originate a wire here, but instead of it being green we're going to use yellow. So I will go and make those joints now. Okay, here we are. So we've joined the red from the roll sensor, from the brake lever, and we've started a fresh red which will go all the way through. We've joined the ground, the blue ground from the roll, the black from the fire button, and we've got a fresh black, and that will go all the way through. And we have the white sensor from the roll. So that's 3 wires. Then we've got 4 wires which have come all the way through from the spade. We've got the blue and the white which came from the brake lever and the 2 fire buttons. So we're going to run those 4 as a group, and that will be group B. And then we're going to run these 4 as a group, and that will be group A. And then the rest of the assembly is just like it was in the previous video until we come to wire up the RJ45 socket. Now, I did say that I wasn't going to return to this video until it was time to connect the RJ45, but I do want to show you something. I've made a redesign as part of this second version just to solve a problem that was, I found kind of inconvenient, I'm sure you would do, and that was this part here where you've put the plug in and you're just going to feed the bearing and the slotted case back through the wires. And because the wires were going through the slots in the outside and then going at 90 degrees and coming out of this bearing hole, it was quite fiddly, so I've redesigned it, and now it's very easy indeed. And basically you just thread the wires initially right through the hole in the back, and then when you're done, that's when you just need to slide these wires, that's group A at the top there, into the slots just to sort of keep them tidy and going where you want them. So that should make life a bit easier for you. Almost done now, and it's time to connect the RJ45. This is very straightforward. It's simply the same as before. We're going to have group A followed by group B. So it's red, black, yellow, white. Again, just a small tweak. From the situations when we've had people struggle to make a connection, basically they plug it all in, it doesn't work. This is proving to be one of the areas that's been a cause of problems. So I'm back, probably actually with the way I was originally doing it before I tried to simplify things, which is I'm stripping a little wire off the silicon rather than relying on the teeth of the RJ45 to crush through and cut into the silicon, cut to the wire. I'm now just stripping off a bit of the silicon, doing that here and on the DuPonts. The only thing to be aware of when you do that, if you just look really closely, you see how the teeth are staggered. What you don't want to do is have a long piece of wire that strays across and then makes a little bit of contact with that other tooth that just protrudes into the plastic a little bit there. So just use short lengths of exposed wire, no need to have long lengths, and then just crush them through like that. And then just give them a good look, make sure there's no stray bits. Okay, I'll just press on with that. Red, black, yellow, white. Okay, that's group A. Don't mix the yellows up. Now group B. Actually, the other benefit of stripping back the wire is another possible problem that you can have when you don't strip the wire is that because of all the kind of pushing and stretching, pulling and stretching that's been happening during this build, you can find that the wire might have pulled down inside the cover so that you cut into the plastic but there's no wire there, it's kind of slid back a sort of 5 mil. So this way you know you're making contact. Okay, they're all in. Have a good look over, ideally with a magnifying glass. But I feel pretty good about those. Okay, in it goes. Okay, let's wire up the universal hub. And it's the same process as before, but there's a slightly different order of the colours. I'll show you here. It's red, black, yellow, white, green, orange, blue, grey. And similar to last time, if you remember, we didn't have the red going directly in here. We had some red silicon, and then we split the red out into multiple positives. We're doing that again, but we're also doing the same with the black this time. So the black is not going in straight in. We're going to have some black silicon, which will go here. We're going to split out 2 ground wires from there. And this time as well, I am stripping back the wire. I'm not relying on the teeth of the RJ45 to cut it. I'm stripping it back so that we can be sure of a good contact with these teeth. So let's wire this up. We'll start with axis 1 and work our way from the back. So the ground for the roll is going to be a purple. The signal for the roll is going to be the white. The positive for the roll will be a red. Moving on to the pitch. The ground for the pitch is the black. The signal for the pitch is the yellow. The positive for the pitch is the brown. Okay, skipping to row 8 of the axes, this is the brake lever. The ground for the brake lever is the blue. The signal for the brake lever is the grey. And the positive for the brake lever, that's from up here, and that's the one that you've just got any old colour. Now, 2 fire buttons this time. The yellow that we were using earlier on is converted into an orange, and that goes to pin 1. Remember to skip 1 before you start on the columns. So that's pin 1 of the columns. And then green was the cannon. Let's do that a bit more tidily, thread that under there. And that goes into pin 2. Alright, let's try this out. Okay guys, the moment of truth. That's a good start. Right, let's just hit the properties on that. That's a very good start. Let's see if we have some roll. Yes, we have some roll. Now I haven't calibrated yet, which is why it isn't going full scale left and right. Do we have some pitch? Yes, we have some pitch. And we have a brake lever. Now, here we go. Let's just get this one lined up. Do we have machine guns? Number 1, we have machine guns. Do we have cannon? Yes, we have cannon, and yes, we have both. That's it guys. Enjoy. And I'll be back soon with a trim wheel, throttle quadrant, and lots of other good stuff. Bye for now.